I see how automation and AI are starting to redefine business realities. So, how do we embrace this new set of tools and capabilities whilst not losing ourselves, especially when it comes to building client relationships and driving growth in business?
AI can help you to reach out to the relevant people, to find the right prospects, to give you sort of a really good approach to help you plan. But AI doesn't build trust. AI doesn't build relationships. AI has no chemistry. And I love that word chemistry, which I think is
Yeah.
really, really important in sales and business. But, so I would say that in actual fact, I've seen my teams, I myself, are doubling down actually on the human element, on building relationships, on spending more time doing the high value sort of relationship building side of things, constantly having that human oversight on what you're getting from AI as well, and having that human empathy in the loop.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another exciting episode of Ready Next. My guest today is Fiona Doyle. Fiona is a senior sales and business development leader with 20 plus years industry experience across multiple sectors, including technology, financial services, and professional services. She has held senior leadership roles, driving strategic growth, leading high performance account teams, and delivering high impact sales training and coaching across international markets. Fiona is deeply committed to developing emerging talent and has a particular focus on advancing women in leadership, mentoring through initiatives such as Women in AI Ireland. She brings a practical, real world industry perspective on sales excellence, winning key account strategy, and leading in complex corporate environments and global markets. Fiona, welcome to Ready Next.
Thank you so much, Tosin. It's absolutely fab to be here. Thank you very much. Lovely introduction. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to have you. I'm actually quite excited about this conversation because I think this is one very important episode because you will help us unpack a little bit about the magic of sales, of marketing, and of client management. But let's start at the very beginning. Let's talk a little bit about your journey, how
Mhm.
you got into this space, client relationship management, business growth, and you've actually had a breadth of experience across various industries as well. So, what were the early important experiences that shaped you into the leader that you are today?
Thanks, Tosin. That's a really great question and a big question. Also, I would love to say that there was a great grand plan around how I ended up in sales and in business development. But to be really, really honest with you, I think it was one of those things that I sort of fell into, as many people do. I
Yes.
had a business degree behind me. I had studied economics and French in University College Cork in Ireland, and I went straight from college to London. And I was eager to, just experience everything I could about the city. And I was really keen to work in the city. I had friends working in large organizations, and I was really keen to experience that. So I cut my teeth first, actually, in recruitment, as many salespeople, in fact, do.
Yes.
So I did a stint as a recruitment consultant. I really, really actually enjoyed that. I am actually very much a people person. I love people, love meeting people, building relationships, have a natural kind of curiosity, which is, I think, really important in sales. And from recruitment, I got the opportunity to apply for a position at PwC. I was very, very keen to work there. I had a couple of different things on the go at the time. But when the opportunity to apply for a business development role at PwC came up, I absolutely jumped at the opportunity and thankfully was successful. And I started in that role, which really led me on the path that I still am on today, to be fair. and we can come back to it a little bit later also, but it
Yes.
really, yeah, it was where I really started to get into the depths of, client relationship management, key account management, consultative selling, working with global teams. And I spent 10 years at PwC in London before I subsequently moved back to Dublin. So really, I think it was one of those things where after university, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, to be honest. I had a vision of myself working in the city, strutting around London with a briefcase and a suit. Um, but I wasn't that clear, to be perfectly honest. But the recruitment stint gave me like some fantastic skills in, building relationships, understanding people, getting to the kind of core of the the problems that clients were trying to solve in terms of the roles they were recruiting for and getting the right fit. And, spending time understanding people, listening to what clients needed, and working in quite a fast paced, quite
Yes.
pressurized environment sometimes. But it set me up well for the role at PwC, and then the sort of the career that I managed to forge, very luckily, and have a lot of gratitude for that, in terms of where that took me and is still taking me.
Sounds to me that not only were you successful in doing that, but you then started to forge a very clear path. And it just leads me to the question about some of the forces you might have encountered. I mean, over time, have there been major moments of disruption, whether they're technological, economic, or social, in those early years that made you adapt or forced you to have to think about adapting or leading or working through change?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, change is a constant, I would say. And, in those early years, I was blessed to have really good mentors, which is a really key thing. And it's also why I've got such a passion myself now for giving back and mentoring. But in terms of, and I looked at how those mentors, those leaders, those people more senior than me, led through change. Like there was constantly, whether it was, different restructures within the firm, different leadership, evolving leadership, new ideas, new objectives, new areas of focus, new sectors that we were working in or were concentrating on. I looked at how different leaders, different, peers were dealing with these changes. And I was kind of learning the whole time, even things around when we introduced a new CRM system, when we launched Salesforce. This was like a huge deal, but like embracing it and actually taking time to test, to pilot, to then, build on that knowledge, I think is one of the key things with, say, embracing like new technologies, like new systems, new CRMs, new, new new ways of working, I would say. I was actually back in Ireland working for PwC in Dublin at the time, and we had to do a very, very quick pivot to doing everything virtual, adapting, new technologies, new ways of working again. But the sort of practice from doing that previously, totally in a different situation, not clearly a COVID situation, a global pandemic was new, but knowing how to adapt to change, knowing how to pivot and use new technologies, and collaborating together. That was something that I already had been kind of entrenched into my DNA. And COVID in particular really pushed us all and really stretched us and challenged us. But we brought in new technologies, things like Mural, a platform called Mural, which we use to deliver all the sales training virtually, um, and very interactive technology that myself and my team were delivering, hundreds of hours of training virtually to teams using new technology. We did that big pivot during COVID during the pandemic, for example. So what I would say is that it's just a willingness to be open, be agile, to test and to pilot things and to look and learn from those around you who do it well, and also not be afraid to dive into something new. And just make sure that you've always got the value, the client, the value in your mind on how that's going to deliver, I suppose, value to your customers, value to your clients, will sort of guide you.
But one thing that also stands out to me is how much training you had to
Yeah.
embed, in the teams that you work with. I'm wondering how that actually translates in practice. In your experience, I find that there is a gap between, you know, uh, organizations embracing data, saying that they're data driven, but
Hmm.
being able to evidence that in terms of measurable growth. And I know it's, not the easiest thing to do. What, in your experience, are those key levers that you can actually leverage moving from having data capabilities to then being able to drive business results, whether it's ROI or return on objectives, and even perhaps market expansion, leveraging data?
Hmm. Yeah, such a huge area of importance at the moment. It's so huge and has been for some time. But I think the whole you mentioned it at the end there in what you said around insights. And for me, that is absolutely key. We have so many different data points that we can access in any organization now. And it's all about how the organization is leveraging insights from that data.
Mm.
And for example, from a sales perspective, I see like the best sellers are the people that can look at the data, can leverage the insights from the data, and then can layer that with empathy, and the human touch, the human in the loop around it. Those are the organizations that will be driving, better understanding of their customers and clients, will drive growth and sustainable growth because, we all know that cliche per se of, it's 5 times more difficult to win a brand new customer than to, sell to an existing client or customer. But I see that the better that you can understand those existing clients and customers and use data to actually really understand what is driving their business, what are their problems, how you can solve those. And actually you're sort of cross-selling, you're upselling, you're bringing more value to those existing clients and customers by using the data that you have, and not just from one region, using global data to understand your customers and clients better. This will, in actual fact, really drive growth and long-term growth as opposed to just that short-term, sort of, I suppose, growth that we're seeing in pockets in some organizations. And
Yes.
the organizations and the experiences that I've had and the teams that I've worked with that are getting it right are the teams that understand how to holistically look at their clients, look at their customers, and have a very holistic strategy within the organization on how they're going to drive revenue and drive growth. And it really comes down to, harnessing intelligently the data, the insights that you have, teams working closely together, as I was saying, especially sales and marketing. I think it's really, really key
Yeah.
relationship, even more so now that, marketing and sales are working really closely to leverage insights and drive ROI and revenue growth.
I think that's beautiful. And I wanted to segue into, I think, a very different area of conversation, but one that I think no less is quite exciting for you, which is talking about mentoring people and,
Mm.
you know, especially young women. I wanted to talk about this because I know that this is a passion point for you. And I wanted to find out why you think um, especially in 2025 and beyond. Um, Mentorship and leading young people and helping them navigate their way successfully is quite important.
Yes, I mean, look, you know this, Tosin, from talking to me in the past as well, how passionate I am about mentoring, especially young people in business, young females in business in particular. And a lot of it is because I want to. I'm at a point now where I feel like I've got a lot of experience that I've built up. You know, you mentioned the word trust, which is huge in terms of being successful in business development and sales and building trusted relationships in mentoring as well. It's all about building up a piece of, you know, trust very quickly with the young person that you're mentoring, or whomever you're mentoring. But it's about giving back as well. Like for me, I'd love to, and I really enjoy giving back in that way to hopefully share experiences, share insights, build trust with somebody, explain some of the things that I've had to, you know, some of the challenges that I've embraced along my journey, and some of the ways that I've managed to sort of succeed and to overcome challenges. I had some great mentors early in my career, and even still throughout my career, I've looked for mentors. What I really get a lot of value from is meeting new people, you know, meeting young people, spending time with them, hearing about what they're trying to achieve, listening to them. And, you know, I always learn from these conversations, helping them to one of the key things as well. We didn't really talk much about networking per se in itself, but what I found is that, you know, young people are at the beginning of building their network. So one of the things I've been able to help the mentees that I've been working with is expand their networks, you know, connect them to people, relevant people in their industry, relevant people. I'm part of, you know, a lot of women in tech networks, women in business networks, you know, connect them with other people that I think would be really helpful and useful for them on their journeys. And I get a real kick out of bringing people together and connecting people. And it keeps me feeling, you know, in the vibe as well, and on top of things, and you know, helps me to see what the new trends are, what's coming down the track. I love sharing experiences. I love giving back, and it's fun. And what I think is really important as well is that the mentoring that I'm doing, was you mentor kind of one to one a lot of the time. I'm also doing some group mentoring now as well, which is really exciting, and bringing people together in a group, you know, has a completely different dynamic. So I'm finding that that's actually really, really interesting, really exciting, and long may it continue. I'm, you know,
Yes.
I'm involved in lots of different networks. Recently, I was working on a program with Women in AI Ireland, which was excellent, and was almost like a sprint mentoring program. It was just a short 6-week program, but I was working with my mentee, just helping her to develop her elevator pitch. And she was in the early stages of developing a fashion tech product, and really interesting, but didn't really have the business, was an engineer by trade and background and education, but was helping her, you know, with her business plan, with her elevator pitch, you know, acting as a little bit like devil's advocate at times, but just, you know, being, another pair of eyes and ears, and bringing kind of my business knowledge and networks to her to help her sort of get her product off the ground and get her ready for funding as well. So that was
Wow.
really, really interesting. Yeah.
No, brilliant. I hear the depth of the passion and care for doing that work, you know, for mentoring young people come through. Absolutely. And I think that you are doing something I feel every leader, you know, at your stage, your level should embrace. I think that we all need to kind of invest in the next generation and really get them, you know, on the right path, help them get their skates on, as it were, and
Yeah.
moving in the right direction. And I wanted to, because I know that there will be a few folks at the start of their career listening and watching this podcast. I wanted to sort of invert that question and say, what would you advise, you know, a young professional, female, male professional to really lock in on, outside of course, their technical capabilities and skills? What kind of abilities or attributes or experiences should they tap into at the early stage of their career that will serve them well on the long run?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question actually before the podcast today, Tosin, just thinking about this.
Yeah.
And in relation to even my own experience and how I sort of, developed and pushed myself. But I would say throw yourself out of your comfort zone. This is, one really big piece of advice I was given. I was, somebody who probably would have towed the line quite a bit, played it safe, was always up for meeting people, going to events. But what I would say is throw yourself out of your comfort zone, put yourself out there, be open to, going to events, going networking, do your research before. I mean, this is where you can absolutely use AI and tech in a much better way than we were able to in the past to like find out about people that you're going to be seeing, just put yourself out there, I would say, you know, ask questions, ask for opportunities. I wish I had been braver even quicker when I was younger to do more of that because people will take you with them. If you just ask for the opportunity to come out and meet with clients if you're not already doing it, for example. Ask for an opportunity to go to, a breakfast briefing, an event, a round table. Do your homework as well, though. Be prepared to put in a bit of effort, but just be brave, go out there, meet people, network, ask for introductions. Things like platforms like LinkedIn are fabulous now for you can see it, Tosin, if I saw that you had a connection with somebody I wanted an introduction to,
Yeah.
be brave and ask for those introductions. I would love to tell my younger self, you have value straight
Mm.
away. You don't
Oh,
need
yes.
to be 10, 15, 20 plus years in a job, in a role. You have value straight off from the get-go. You have something to contribute. You have experience, you have learning, you have a different way of looking at the world. You may have lots of really great ideas. So be brave and share those ideas. But also do not be afraid of hard work. You still got to put in the effort, the work. And in a nutshell, be curious and just put yourself out there.
I love the advice, you need to get out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Because for each of us, or for everyone listening, your comfort zone. You know what that
Hmm.
means to you. So getting out of your comfort zone may mean different things to different people, but I think that advice is prescient. I also think that the good old values of hard work, great
Yeah.
work ethic, and really just putting yourself out there and saying yes to opportunities that may not, be always aligned, down your path is
Yes.
also phenomenal advice. But yeah, you mentioned AI there, and that takes me right back,
Yes.
into present conversation. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, the human element. You have worked um, across sectors, across industries, helping to build businesses, to build client relationships. But we're in this new time, this new era of AI, and
Mhm.
I can see how automation and AI are starting to redefine business realities. So, how do we embrace this new set of tools and capabilities whilst not losing ourselves, especially when it comes to building client relationships
Mm.
and driving growth in business?
Yeah, it's such a important question, and one which myself and my peers and everyone I'm speaking to, in whatever industry you're in, we're all giving it a lot of thought, and everyone is still learning. I should say, by the way, nobody has this figured out yet,
Yes.
but I find it a really exciting time, and yes, in some shape it is also a worrying time for some people, but I find it exciting in business because there are so many amazing tools now that we have at our disposal, that can really help us, get repetitive tasks done quickly, It's incredible. I'll just give you an example. My old team I was in a tech company after I left PwC recently, and
Yeah.
my old team, we were given, the opportunity to just build co-pilots, build our own tools. And within weeks, teams had built amazing co-pilots to do account plans, deal plans, outreach, things that would have taken us hours to do previously.
Yes.
AI was helping us. So
Yes.
really, and helping in a really, really useful, really sort of insightful way. However, and this bit is the bit that's really key. And we talked about trust earlier, and I think I may
Yes.
have said it, but AI doesn't build trust in itself. AI can help you to reach out to the relevant people, to find the right prospects, to give you sort of a really good approach to help you plan. But AI doesn't build trust. AI doesn't build relationships. AI has no chemistry. And I love that word chemistry, which I think is
Yeah.
really, really important in sales and business. But, so I would say that in actual fact, I've seen my teams, I myself are doubling down actually on the human element, on building relationships, on spending more time doing the high value sort of relationship building side of things, investing in going to more conferences, going to more events, having more coffees, having more conversations, and I think doubling down on building the relationships, on constantly having that human oversight on what you're getting from AI as well, and having that human empathy in the loop. This is what is really important now. I think, the soft skills like EQ, the being able to build that relationship, being able to bring all the, I suppose, advantages that technology and AI can give us now, but bringing that to bear with your human intelligence, your human eye on things, your human empathy, and building, authentic, trusted relationships, doubling down on the time you spend on that, because hopefully you don't have to spend as much time on the repetitive
Yeah.
tasks. This is where people should be directing their energy, I think, to be successful. And I think it's exciting because AI and technology in its best sense can allow us to do that, and can
Yes.
allow us to spend more time on high impact, high value um, tasks and relationships. And this is it's a better place to be, really. And it's important to maintain the humanity in the loop
You're right.
always, and not being lazy, I would say, not being lazy with technology and AI, but
Yes.
using it in an intelligent human way. I find personally is helping me actually be more successful. And I've seen people doing this really, really well. And then obviously we've all seen the sloppy, lazy way
Yeah.
also. So exciting times, challenging times, unsettling
Mm.
times, but
Yes.
it is also, I would think, overall an exciting time to be in business, to be in sales, to be in business development, and to be in the world, I would say. Really,
You're
I
right.
feel optimistic. I feel curious. I also have children, so I'm hyper aware of the impact of technology, social media, AI on their lives also. But
Yeah.
we have to embrace it. It is not going anywhere. And, but there's nothing that can replace human chemistry and, human relationships.
Yes. 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 I totally agree with you. And I think that might be one of the quotable quotes from this is AI has no chemistry and nothing can
Yeah.
replace, you know, human chemistry when it comes to relationship building. In fact, business transactions really, because I mean, we're talking about a contact sport here. And
Yes,
AI, like you
yes.
said, again, I just love that quote. AI has no chemistry. I think it then brings me back to sort of dialing in a bit deeper into this duality of where we are, where, as you've rightly said, it's quite exciting times, but it's also concerning in some quarters, especially when you start to think about the question about diversity and equity,
Mm,
and the question around, regulation and moderation. How do we start to tackle this? And I think a little bit of that conversation, narrative, I think maybe could point at, the gatekeepers, maybe government,
mm.
maybe regulators. What do you see in this emerging landscape where it feels like a little bit of the Wild West at the moment? Are we
Yeah.
getting too overzealous and not being careful enough, or are we just navigating our way to finding a balance?
I think there's a bit of both there. I think, we are all navigating this new landscape 100%. And probably there's elements of some people, some areas, some industries getting ahead of things too. But I think your point about diversity and, you know, taking time, I think, as well to navigate where we're at is really, really key. And for me, I am seeing how important it is to have these conversations. I'm in the room on many panels and as I said, I'm part of many networks in terms of women in technology, women in business. I Every single event, every single dinner I'm at recently, the conversation is focused around diversity in AI and do we have the right representation around the table, to be having these conversations, whether it's at government, around the regulatory side of things, just in business in general, in organizations. Like, do we have proper diverse representation and enough diverse voices in the room when and clearly we I would say we definitely don't at this point in time. We absolutely need much more diversity
Agreed.
around the table
Yes.
on where AI is going, around ethics, around developments. I think it's just really, really key. And like you and I would both, I think, be of the same mindset here, Tosin, where you have more diversity, it can only be a good thing
Yeah.
because, the people that we deal with, in business, in life, and in business in particular, customers, clients we're in a global world now. We're not just in a very small kind of local regional world. We're in a global world and
Yes.
global voices are really important. Diverse voices are really important. Diverse ethnicities, races, genders, having a diverse committee,
Yes.
representation around the proverbial table when AI is being developed and debated, and when new technologies are being rolled out. We just need to do more. We need to get better at that. And I just think we're at a really important pivotal time now because things are going very, very quickly. Everything's racing ahead. And I think we're all embracing technology as much as we can and as quickly as we can, or if you don't, you're definitely going to get left behind. But whilst we're
Mm.
racing to keep up, it's important to balance that with pause. I know that sounds like a contradiction, but as we're kind of racing ahead, we need to be encouraging each other and organizations and regulatory bodies and government to stop and pause and make sure there's enough diversity in the room and that we're questioning and challenging where we're taking this next stage of AI and technological advancement.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that more diversity makes it a richer experience for everyone, for starters. Secondly, I
More
think
successful also,
more
and more
successful.
successful. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was going to be my second point
Yeah.
is that
Sorry.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, it's just, again, you took the words right out of my mouth because you have to have on the sort of creator, business, corporate side, you have to have representation because that then means you have better access to those markets, to those industries, to those communities, to those cultures, which
Yeah.
means higher order of business, for the companies, for all the companies that are deploying AI-driven solutions. And I think also, um, you mentioned, getting a diverse set of voices around the table. I put it in this sort of in these terms. Um, if you don't have diversity at the table, then you're actually putting those diverse cultures and those diverse voices. You're baking them into the menu. They become the thing on
Uh,
the menu. So it's either you're on the table at the table, or you are on the menu. And it, yeah,
I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And it takes me to the point about what you see coming down the pipeline.
Mm,
When you
yeah.
start to think about the next 3, 4, 5 years ahead, because it looks like we've kind of accelerated so quickly that when you just look back at the last 2 years, it feels like ancient history, in comparison to where we are now.
Yes.
So, what should we be looking at in terms of most significant shifts in your view? Technology. How do you see technology morphing in the next sort of 3 to 5 years?
I wish I had the answer to all those questions, Tosin. It's like the million or billion or $1 trillion
Dollar
question.
question. I know, I know, I
Trillion
know.
now. We're moving into trillions, aren't we?
Yeah,
I think, there is a big shift in the way teams are selling, and also in the way clients and customers are buying, right? So, you know, social selling is huge. Building your sort of your network, building trust actually online and via platforms like LinkedIn and other niche platforms. Like social selling is, I think, it's a big area that will continue to develop, and those that will be successful will have built, a very trusted brand, an online brand, an online presence, a very authentic, presence as well is really important. In terms of AI itself and how we leverage that, we've talked a lot about data earlier in the conversation, but this is going to continue to dominate and develop, in the next 6 months to a year to 2 years, 3 years down the track, and being able to, capture and understand and leverage AI. Nobody has the answers. Nobody has all the answers straight off, but it's watching the trends. It's watching what's happening across the different industries, depending which industry you're
yeah,
in. It's looking at what's successful and then trying to adapt that as well, I think. But I would love to be able to give you more of an answer, but I think, like everybody, I'm watching and learning and staying open, staying curious, and, being ready to be agile with new technology. I think it's really important to just embrace the trend, like to challenge as well the trends that are
yeah,
coming down the track, but to be ready to embrace and keeping on top of new technologies, new trends, and what all of those are or will be. I'm not in a position, unfortunately, that I'd love to get my crystal ball out, and I could probably make millions that way. But I think we will move towards more things like predictive, insights, analytics, and again, from a sales perspective, really having a really good handle through AI and technology on, your ideal client, your ideal buyer, being able to use all the data and predictive analytics to leverage the market and your go-to-market strategy. But once again, just to end with being human and being authentic, I think will trump any technology that's coming down the track, because that is our USP. That's our unique selling point. Is how we, how we show up in the world as humans, and how we build relationships, and how we leverage technology to enable us to do being human better.
yeah.
Is how I see the future developing.
Yeah, I think you've actually said a lot. You've tackled a very complex question about what you see coming down the pipe, but you've also laid out a framework that I think we all can subscribe to, stay curious, stay agile, but at the same time, embrace your authenticity, um,
Yeah.
create or build or find your voice. Don't be missing in the digital conversation.
Yes.
Embrace social selling, embrace storytelling. I'm just repeating everything you
Yeah.
said in sort of bite-sized chunks, but I think that those are going to be quite defining as we move into the next sort of inning with technology driven change and
Mhm.
AI specifically. But I want, as we wrap up, I want you to speak to the business leader, who is a little bit tentative about all of this and is a little bit worried that they're getting either left behind or lost in this sort of overwhelm of technological change. What can they do to kind of, root themselves and plant their tent poles, but also run with confidence, into this new era that we're in? As a final sort of
Yeah.
piece of advice or thought from you.
Yeah, sure. And I'm actually preparing for a session in a couple of weeks with small and medium businesses, SMBs here in Ireland, and we're going to be tackling exactly that question, Tosin. And it's actually a very high statistic here in Ireland, in any case, of SMEs that are not yet adapting any AI at all in their business, for example, or not running with new technological advancements or new tools. So, look, I would say that try and identify, some tangible, practical problems that you're trying to solve. Have one, two, three, maybe, use cases that would be, viable and practical to start thinking about how you'd use AI, for example, to drive efficiencies in your business, and be ready to test. And I said this before, but I absolutely love a pilot.
Yeah.
I think you don't have to go full scale on change and on new technology or on AI, but if there's an area of the business and a particular use case that you can test it with, like, come to the table and be ready to brainstorm and workshop, and then bring in a solution around that use case, and then if you can quickly see results, it's you can bring your teams on board, you can bring people on board quite quickly if you can show, if you got something tangible that you can then show results, and show that this makes people's lives easier. It's easier then to scale things, to bring new ideas, to roll out something in a bigger fashion. But it by sort of not doing anything, or doing the ostrich on it and burying your head in the sand,
Yeah.
this is definitely not the place to be. I think you've just got to try, you've got to test, but you've got to try and solve some real problems, and identify and articulate those problems, and bring those to the table. And then, we can workshop and together with, teams, with people who have done this before, talk to peers, talk to other similar organizations in your industry, be open to how other people are doing things, and be open to bringing a problem to the table to try and solve. Start small, and you can scale, you can roll out, but test, pilot, test again, scale, and just be open, be curious. I would say don't stand still, because you will get left behind.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Don't stand still. You'll get left behind. Pilot, test, and scale. Find tangible problems and then boldly apply AI to those use cases. I think those are all
Yeah,
phenomenal ideas that you shared with us. And thank you so much. The time has
it's a
gone so
pleasure.
quickly.
It has.
And
It's
that's
flown
actually
by.
because it's been such a pleasant conversation. It's been an absolute delight to have you on the podcast, Fiona. And I'm sure we'll invite you back again to share a bit more of your
Yeah.
experience and wisdom. And to those
Thank you,
listening,
Tosin.
you're welcome. You're welcome. To those listening, I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. And I trust that you took away some actionable insights. Thanks for watching and listening. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Tosin.
Thanks, Fiona.